All right, guys, so today we're going to finish talking about the neuron. So I'm going to go over to your PowerPoints and I'm going to give you a brief overview of what's important. So here are the two things I really need you to remember. So the dendrites up here, this is what's going to receive messages. And then we have the terminal buttons or the axon, and that is what's going to send messages. So I'm going to go down. Now this is a close-up picture of essentially an axon. Up here are the terminal button, and then the dendrite, which is receiving that message. So what you can see is between the two neurons, there's a tiny gap. So that gap is called the synapse. And between the two neurons and the gap, what you see is in order to jump that gap, most neurons function as they need a chemical messenger to jump the gap. And so what jumps that tiny synapse is the neurotransmitter. So these are the neurotransmitters, these little clusters here, and they're going to jump the synapse so that they can be on the receiving side or in the dendrite side, all right? And they're going to jump on these little receptors, and they usually fit perfectly. So there's a lot of different examples of neurotransmitters. I'm going to talk about one that maybe a lot of people might know about, which is serotonin. Serotonin is responsible for mood regulation and like sort of how our general feeling is. So we're going to keep talking about it. I'm going to roll down. Remember, so a neurotransmitter jumps that synapse. So the two neurons, we have an axon here and a dendrite here. And then in order for the dendrite to receive the neurotransmitter, it has to jump that gap. So let's keep going. And the example I gave was serotonin. So reuptake means that once that serotonin jumps the gap, so once the serotonin goes over to the dendrite, that excess serotonin, so the excess is too much, is sucked back up in this process of reuptake. That's one way that it's sucked back up. And so things like SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, inhibiting me to stop, what happens is that process is not allowed to happen. So that excess serotonin is allowed to float around, and that is associated with a better mood for folks who have severe depression. There's a lot of different reasons that is that I'm not going to go into though, but if you're interested, we can talk about it. So here are some examples of neurotransmitters that, help you to understand this concept, and this is something that I talked about a little second ago. And so I want you to go over the basic parts of your nervous system and then watch that cool video that I've attached. So you have two major parts that I'm going to talk about: the central nervous system, which is essentially is your brain and spinal cord, and that's what's talked about in the video, and then your peripheral nervous system, which is the rest of the nerves throughout your body. I'm going to break it down a little bit further. So your peripheral nervous system is responsible for all of the different motions and things that you do with your body. So this is going to be everything from moving your body, walking, all the way to things that you don't think about. So somatic is things that you have to think about, like moving my arm. And autonomic is things that you don't have to think about, like your stomach just working properly. And so we're going to scroll down even further. Sympathetic is like, oh, emergency, fight or flight, oh, my life. And then parasympathetic is like helping your body come down and just like your normal everyday functioning, your body just running as it should. You're just living your life without complication. So watch that other video, all right, and you will be raring to go.